Hello everyone, I finally got my hands on the new Samsung Z Fold 3 and in this video I'll be testing some games on this beast of a phone. I'll be using the Xbox controller so my hands are not all over the screen. I left it sitting for a while to get the standby temperature and it's around 29, which is pretty close to the room temperature. Starting up Call of Duty Mobile brings it up to 31 and after a couple rounds it hovers at 35-36. And from my early testing that's about as high as it gets with normal gaming. Playing on this screen is amazing. Samsung makes the best screens in the market and this one is no exception. Super bright, brighter than the Fold 2, and then with those rich blacks that only an OLED screen can provide. All of this at 120Hz. It's really an amazing experience.
SS-1 Goliath incoming. Target down. SS-1 Goliath is landing. Target down.
Next is Real Racer 3. I really don't like it that much because of all the pay to win and pay to play. But it's a nice game to test because the graphics are beautiful and it runs at 120Hz. It's a good game, but the waiting times ruin it. Now let's go to emulators, starting with the best emulator for Android, PPSPP. You guessed it, it's a PSP emulator. This is Tekken 6 running perfectly at 5x resolution, 60 FPS. This game is 14 years old and still looks better than anything you'll find on the Play Store.
Ready for the next battle. Round one. Fight.
Next we have God of War, Ghost of Sparta, and this is a more demanding game, so I turned the super sampling down to 4x. But as you can see, it still looks amazing. Now some Gran Turismo action. In terms of graphics, it's a bit worse than Real Racer 3, but miles better in gameplay. Now, this screen is perfect for retro gaming because it's the same aspect ratio old consoles used. So you can play your old games just like they were meant to be played. Some emulators have hacks to force widescreen ratios, but the results are very game dependent. There's no guarantee it will work correctly. This way you can use the whole screen. Here I'm using DuckStation, which is the best PlayStation 1 emulator right now. It works really well, even at 5x. And if you see it with the native resolution side by side, the difference is just insane. And the phone just runs it without even sweating. I've been playing for over an hour and the temperature is completely under control. Moving on to the PlayStation 2 generation. Sadly, there is no good PlayStation 2 emulator. I made a video testing the available options, but they all suck. But on the other hand, there is a good GameCube and Wii emulator called Dolphin. And a lot of PS2 games were also released on the GameCube, so it's a nice workaround to this problem. This is Need for Speed Underground running with no problems. You can see the GPU is always around 45%, so I tried turning on 2x resolution, and now you can see we're finally pushing the phone to its limits with the GPU hitting 80%. And it runs fine until we hit thermal throttling. When the temperature hits 43, it immediately starts stuttering. So in one hand, the GPU is capable, You just have to find a way to deal with the temperature. So I turned the aircon on and left the phone cool down to 19 degrees. And after 4 laps of this same track, it was at 37 degrees. So really cool experience if you want to melt your phone. But don't think this is a problem. 2x resolution in Dolphin is really pushing it. And these games look fine at native resolution anyway. I didn't encounter any throttling playing normal games from the Play Store or the previous emulators. Only when pushing Dolphin to 2x, so don't worry about it. Here is Tomb Raider Legend, again, running with no problems. Pretty much every GameCube game will run flawlessly on this phone. You may notice it's running at 30 FPS, but that's because the game itself is frame locked.
I'm here, but I don't see no climber. Yeah, well, I can't shoot on sight if I can't see nobody. Got worked up thinking I'd put someone down today. Now there's nothing. He owes me. Hell yeah, I'll tell Rutland myself.
Here is Mario Kart, and one cool thing is that these emulators support multiplayer. So you literally have a portable console in your pocket. I have a video showing the different ways you can use to play multiplayer, so check it if you're interested. Lastly, we have Modern Warfare 3 for the Wii. All these games were already playable since the Snapdragon 865, so with a new chip, they just run a bit smoother and without pushing the phone to its limits, so thermal throttling is not an issue. The last thing I want to talk about is the aspect ratio problem. I've talked about it last year on my Fold 2 review, and the problem remains. Every game in the Play Store is made for widescreen phones, and they don't scale well on a square screen. Instead of giving you a bigger field of view, it actually just scales up the screen so you lose all the information on the sides. And in some games, that puts you at a huge disadvantage. Like in Call of Duty, it sucks, but I can live with it. But in League of Legends, it's just unplayable. You are so zoomed in that you can't see anything around you. So playing ranged champions is borderline impossible. You need to go to the settings and change the aspect ratio to 16:9 so the game becomes more playable. But even then, it's still zoomed, because games are not made for 16:9 either. Only when you're using the cover display, you get the normal field of view.
Minions have spawned.
From the games I tried, only PUBG scaled correctly and gave more field of view and not less. So while this scaling problem sucks a lot, the emulator side really makes up for it, because let's be honest, there's barely a handful of games worth installing from the Play Store, while there's thousands of award-winning games with 0 microtransactions available to play through emulation. So at the end of the day, this phone is a beast and the ultimate gaming phone. Just think, you show up anywhere with 2 controllers and you're playing your childhood classics multiplayer on this huge screen. It just beats anything the Play Store has to offer. I'll be making more videos on the Fold 3, so subscribe if you're into that. As always, thank you for watching, my name is Drew Hunter and have a great day.